Can you say something about crime in Korea? Because people are probably wondering, like, how are you up at that hour in the morning when you're like 14 years old or whatever?
대한민국이 전 세계 국가별 국력 순위 6위라는 조사 결과가 나왔습니다. 타임, 뉴스위크와 함께 미국 3대 시사 주간지로 꼽히는 US 뉴스 앤 월드 리포트는 최근 글로벌 마케팅 커뮤니케이션 기업 바브그룹과 미국 펜실베이니아대 와튼스쿨과 공동으로 2022 최고의 국가 순위를 매겨 발표했는데요. 전 세계 85개국의 국력, 삶의 질, 사회적 목적, 문화적 영향, 기업가 정신, 문화적 유산, 이동인구, 기업 개방성 등 10개 요소의 점수를 계산해 순위를 매긴 결과 한국은 전 세계 국가별 국력 순위에서 6위에 이름을 올렸습니다. 지난해 같은 평가에서보다 2계단 오른 순위로 프랑스와 일본을 제친 것입니다. US 뉴스 앤 월드 리포트는 한국의 성장을 인상 깊게 평가했습니다. 서울에 대해서는 기술력과 자동차를 대표하는 삼성, 현대, 기아의 본사가 있는 곳이라고 소개했죠. 특히 한국의 성장 배경에는 남다른 교육열이 있었다고 진단하면서 국가가 성장하기 위해서는 한국처럼 교육 문제 해결을 통해야 한다고 강조했습니다. 이러한 견해는 현재 미국 내에서 점점 더 확산되고 있는데요. 미국의 유명 사회학자이자 미국 펜실베이니아 주립대 샘 리처드 교수는 1980년대 중반부터 한국에 대해 관심을 가지고 연구하기 시작합니다. 그 역시 한국의 기적과도 같은 성장 이면에는 놀라운 교육열이 바탕이 되었다고 연구했죠. 샘 리처드 교수의 수업에는 매 학기 1000여 명의 학생들이 수강하고 있는데요. 그는 한국의 교육과 치안 상황에 대해 학생들에게 더 실감나게 전달하기 위해 한국 학생 4명을 불러내 한국의 경제적 성장과 한국의 위치를 설명하는 강의를 진행했습니다. 최근 몇 년 동안에는 주로 한류와 관련된 강의를 했고 한국의 음주 문화에 대해서도 설명했습니다. 오늘 영상에서는 해당 강연 중 오늘날 한국을 존재하게 한 한국만의 특징에 대해 설명하는 부분을 번역해 공유합니다.
We're going to talk about Korea today. Korea is a socioeconomic, geopolitical miracle. What Korea has done, in my lifetime, we'll say in the past 55 years or so, has been something that we've really never seen in human history. To reach a level of modernization, growth, and development that we just have never seen. It all comes from something. And if you look at those numbers there, South Korea in 1965, the GDP is 3.1 billion, and now it's 1.8 trillion. Korea, in 1965, the economy was, the country of Ghana was wealthier than Korea. The country of Algeria was wealthier than Korea. Dude, Tunisia was wealthier than Korea. And now Korea is the 10th largest economy in the world. All that alone would lead me as a sociologist to say, damn, what happened? Like, what happened? What did they do? And which is, of course, what it has maintained my interest in Korea. I was first interested or introduced to Korea back in the mid-'80s through some of the early to mid-'80s when I had some graduate student friends from Seoul. And I started to really kind of dig into Korean geopolitics and economics and familiarize myself with the culture and a lot of things. And so, I became just fascinated by Korea. And I have watched it, over the course of the past 40 years just expand. Korea is one of the most educated countries in the world. So look at Korea. About 70% of Koreans aged 25 to 34 have 4-year college degrees. No, just hold that. 70%. And the U.S. is 40%. And then look at Germany, Saudi Arabia. I put Saudi Arabia because there are so many Saudis in here. And China, Nigeria. What do you do? How do you get there? Like, what's going on in Korea with education? They were competing with 70% of the population their age who also had college degrees. So the college degree is just the norm, right?
Koreans are they're really into education, so going to more than 3 hagwons per day or maybe 5, it's really normal for Koreans.
Be competing as it is, when you graduate from Penn State, you have the idea, okay, you're going to find a job. But if you were competing with twice as many people with college degrees here or back home, wherever you're from, if you're not from the United States, you'd be tutoring. You'd be like trying to elevate your, get your game together, man. Okay, so wait, so do your parents drop you off there? Like, first off, there's virtually can you say something about crime in Korea? Because people are probably wondering, like, how are you up at that hour in the morning when you're like 14 years old or whatever? But do you want to say something about crime, or how much crime is there?
So Korea is identified as really safe country. So like a lot of people go out at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and we don't feel like we're not nervous. Like we know it's safe. So like there's not a lot of crime in South Korea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, virtually. There's no violent crime. So school itself is really intense. But there are layers of school, right? Like the best schools, the worst schools. Like I have the idea that the worst schools, like the lowest level schools, are probably like our upper level schools here, if I could say. So school is already intense. Now you go to these cram schools and you're just being drilled constantly, right?
I personally studied in an international baccalaureate program, and for what I know, the highest scores are always from Korea.
When I was in Korea, Junho and I went to this Incheon International High School, and I gave a talk there.
Students really liked you, and like you realize that a lot of students were really good at English, and they asked a lot of questions to you. So,
dude, these students asked questions of me that I couldn't answer. There were 15-year-olds asking me questions to which I didn't have an answer. There was one question about U.S. foreign policy as it relates to China. These are 15-year-olds, right? 16-year-olds, and I almost had to do a call in to my friend who's the national security advisor to the White House on China. And I'm like, hang on a sec, y'all. I'm going to have to call her to get an answer to this question because I can't answer that question. I mean, this is what I do for a living. And I'm like, y'all are like, you've just like blown me away with this, right? And so that's my experience. But, in East Asian cultures, like you have very much a community-oriented moral order. Like the sense of right and wrong is really built around what's right and wrong for the community. And, here in the West, it's much more individualist-oriented moral order, right? Like, what's right and wrong for me? Like, the most important thing, or the best way to have, like, an organized society is have each person put themselves out front. This is a meal, right? I'm with some friends here. So these are the dishes for everybody. Basically, we're just eating. It's a communal meal. Like, we're just eating together. You don't order your own separate dish. You order and other cultures do this as well. Obviously, it's not just Korea, but it's very community-oriented. Like, you're all participating in that.
Like, for example, when we go to, like, cafe or restaurant, we don't steal stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, even if it's on the table, like it's our law that we don't touch others, like even though like how expensive it is, like we don't steal it.
I'd like to add on it.
Yeah.
So like when I was back in Korea, I was studying at a cafe with my friend, and then I just left to like go to the bathroom, and then once I came back, just one guy came over to me and like whispered me like, my friend, she like touched my stuff, and I was like, oh, she's my friend.
Yeah. Whoa, he saw your friend touch your stuff, like your book bag.
He thought she was stealing something.
Recently, there are a lot of stores without a cashier. So you just have a machine, and people would have to go grab like whatever they want from like the shelves, and then just check out themselves without anyone supervising in the store. And the stores would go on for 24 hours. And just have a single security camera, but people wouldn't steal. They would just check out themselves and leave. Like, get what you want, pay for it, and leave. No one steals it.
You just would never do. This was my experience in Seoul, right? Lots of traffic in Seoul. I kept saying, every time I was in a car, I would say to people, yo, I can't how come nobody's honking their horns? And they say, oh my God, no, it's terrible. The traffic's terrible. People are, and I'm like, they're not. As much time as I spent in cars, which was probably about a total in my 2 weeks in Seoul last May, maybe I was in cars for like 10, 12 hours. I heard 2 horns. That's it. So that's an indication of this community-oriented moral order.
여러분의 소중한 의견을 남겨주세요. 바쁘시더라도 구독과 좋아요 부탁드립니다. 지금까지 단골이시였습니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.